I'm here with Jean from Taborton Equine Books. Can you tell me a little bit about your books?
Well, needless to say, by the name, it means that we stock exclusively horse books.
Okay, so they're all horse books.
All horse books. Everything from children's books right on up to advanced dressage and big fancy coffee table books and things like that. But we stick to the horse world. And, a lot of people ask us, how we got started. We actually started out as a little book department inside a draft horse harness shop.
Wow.
Yeah, and we noticed that our books were selling more than anything. It kind of makes sense. How many harnesses do you need to buy in your lifetime?
Right.
But, boy, our section for children and for horse-related novels, people are still reading phonetics. So, yep.
Have you seen a spike in the sales of horse books since even the show Yellowstone came out? Have you seen more
Absolutely.
people wanting to buy horse books?
There's more in terms of that kind of genre. There is a lot more getting produced and a lot more getting picked up and read. And people, they got so hooked into that series, so hooked into the spin-offs, that we're seeing a lot of authors who think they're going to do a one-up book in that area.
Yeah.
They're going for series now.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt. And people are just gobbling them up.
Yeah. Now, when you say you have books of all kinds, do you do educational books as well? Anywhere from the showing world to, just the basic care of a horse book?
Oh, yeah. Again, we noticed that those books, people are much more selective. There's many people that go through their life with just a 2-foot space of their favorite books on training. That classic book on veterinary health or lameness, they go to it again and again.
Right.
Novels and children's books especially, those are the high volume areas. And it's interesting that as the owner of the shop, those technical books you just referenced, those are my favorites.
Right.
And I tend to just always have those, looking at them on the nightstand. I read books the way other people change TV channels. I'll be going through 4 or 5 at a time. But as far as the growth of our shop, it has definitely been my customers making recommendations on fiction, on children's books.
Really?
There's no way I come back from an event like Congress without having at least a dozen new titles, not just that I haven't stocked, but I've never heard of.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I feel like horses are one of those most popular animals out there, and it is the most intriguing animal. I feel like that is common amongst people. So it doesn't surprise me that people would be wanting to read books on horses, even if they have nothing to do with it.
You pegged it right there. I mean, as far as our technical books, those are for the trainers. Those are for the riders. They're very aggressively looking for those types of topics. But when you get into just generally reading and enjoying about horses, it is a huge population out there.
Right.
People that started out riding when they were 7, had a successful show career, and now they're at advanced age. They may even be in a wheelchair, but they're still reading horses.
Right. I remember one of the series of horse books that I read as a child was the Pony Pals. I don't know if you've ever, I don't know if you have some of those, but I remember having a bunch of those pony, they had so many of them.
Yes.
I don't even know if I got to read all of them,
Yes.
but I remember reading the Pony Pals, and I read obviously the Saddle Club books and stuff as a kid.
You're listing them all. Come on, say Thoroughbred.
Yeah,
the Thoroughbred series. You've got
read that
down.
one too. The other thing is so I grew up in 4-H, and we actually did horse bowl and hippology, so I had a bunch of those, the technical books, learning about all of the things that you need to know to be in those competitions, for horse bowl hippology, which hippology is that written test you take.
Yeah.
And I just remember having a stockpile of those as a kid. And
a horse, the actual using and working in the horse world, it is a terminology game.
Right, it is.
And there's verbiage you hear that you will never hear in any other context.
Well, and then you don't ever forget it.
Yeah.
Like, you just like, I heard that, and like you kind of then instantly remember what that
Yep.
was, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we always host authors to do author signings at all of our events. Here at Congress, we have 4 different authors coming in over the course of the month. At some other shorter events, we'll actually have more authors. I've got a 4-dayer coming up in Massachusetts next month. I'll have 13 authors at.
Oh, wow.
And, it's remarkable to see the reaction people get. I don't know where some people, especially the younger children, think how books get created, but for them to meet an actual author is just stunning to them. I don't know how, AI, how did they create these books? But I give a special shout out to my children's authors, because they are put to the test. Those kids are voracious readers. As soon as a book is done, they expect another one in 2 weeks. And that's why Pony Pals, Thoroughbred Series, Saddle Club, it has so many additions to them.
Right. Yeah. It's just so many. Because like I used to use those books for AR points, because I was already into it, so like I'd already read them before I was even old enough to take those AR reading tests that they make you take in school, and I always just remembered using those for my points. And like I think my teacher was like, you have to read something other than these little horse books.
Oh, you might be destined to own a horse book store. I was ratted out by our school librarian to my mother for only reading horse books, and they made the decision I was not allowed to take out horse books. So I got back at them.
I think I had mine because we had like they did like a monthly subscription deal where like they would send you like a box, and it had other stuff in it, but they would always send you a book with it, and it was either one of those 3, I think, or maybe even something else with it. It
is amazing.
Do you have a favorite horse book that you've read? It's probably really tough.
As far as adult fiction, James Smiley's Horse Heaven, which is now considered probably a classic. It's been out for probably close to 20 years. Just grabbed me. And as far as opposite end of the spectrum in fiction again, Gabriella Brooks's book Horse, which just came out maybe a year and a half ago, that book just grabs you at the end, by the end of the first chapter. It is just incredible how she structured that book. And coincidentally, both of those authors are Pulitzer Prize winners. Not necessarily for their horse books, but because of that, you go on and you read their other work. I mean, no one can write a character and make it come alive the way James Smiley can.
Right.
So,
So that would be one that you would recommend for me to
both
read.
of those. Both of those, yeah. In terms of technical books, the newest one I read that I just absolutely loved, and I know I'm not going to get her name right, so I'll just give you the title. It's called The Gallant Mouth, and it's a book about bidding.
Okay.
Came out from a woman who grew up in the Great Basin tradition of ranching and went on and got interested in classical dressage.
Okay.
So it's one of those rare books that is classical, advanced, detailed horsemanship, but written in an American voice. No translation from the German or French.
Right.
Not dependent on a translator knowing horses. This is the real deal.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Linda Kay.
Thank you. All right. And it's like Hollingsworth after that. Yeah.
It said just Linda Kay on the cover.
Okay. Oh, he's quick on the draw.
Yeah,
Look at that. Boy, talk about technical support.
Yeah. I remember they have that book. It's like got a bunch of different little stories in it. It was like, I think it was like Animals for the Soul or something like that. But they always had like 1 or 2 stories in there about a horse, and that was the only parts I read. Like I wouldn't read about the dogs or the cats that these people were touched by. I only ever read about the horses.
It might be because of the fast-paced time we work in, but anthologies and short story collections have really made a comeback lately, to the point that some of the major publishers have put out new editions. Greatest American horse stories, greatest horse stories ever told.
Right.
One of my favorites is the Will James collection, Horses I Have Known. Just fabulous short stories, and people just love those.
The short stories.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. I can imagine. Yeah, especially with living in a, if you're super busy, if you're working a 9 to 5, and then you're also riding horses on top of that. Like, I could see where.
Well, no, life is speeding up even more if all of a sudden I start seeing a rush on poetry collections.
Right. Yeah.
No, shorter yet.
I wrote a horse poem when I was in like 3rd grade for a contest that actually it ended up going into a book, I think, like back then.
Gosh.
Because it was like a collection, like each grade had a winner.
Okay.
Or each class had a winner, and then they put them all together in a book, but you had to write a poem, and of course obviously mine had to be about horses. So
but yeah, I mean, people ask us, how did our collection grow? Our website has close to 1,700 titles on it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just horses, yeah. And it's like, how? And I always go back to, the people I interact with, the authors. There's probably 40 authors that we at least touch base with every year. They always have recommendations. Of course, our customer base always has recommendations.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, especially the children's section, I pay very strong attention to what the kids say is a good book, because like anything else with a child, you can't convince them something's good when it's not.
Right.
Doesn't matter whether it's food or clothing or stories. Yeah. So yeah.
What would you say is your most popular children's book that you see come through?
Oh, the ones that have really been selling well are Almost Horse. They're a little series of picture books called the Donkey Donk series by Ellen Feld, and it's about a miniature donkey, and she does adventures, and it's all photography and not illustrations, and that is a remarkable little donkey from what I see. There's pictures of her trying to figure out what she's good at, and she sees a horse driving a cart, and then the next picture is little Donkey Donk backwards in the shafts. This is a real photo. Nope, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So that one, you look at books that not only the kids pick up and say, this is the one I want,
right,
but a grandparent or a parent come in and say, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that little series has been real popular.
Where can people find you? Like, do you sell books online also? Do you have just in-store locations?
Yeah.
Or
we do. I haven't had a brick and mortar for a number of years. We do about a dozen expos a year, like Congress. We also do like Briar Fest, which is opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
We're mostly, as far as our expo setups, we're mostly in the Northeast and to about as far west as like Wisconsin, and then we have our website.
And then you have your website.
Yeah.
What is your website?
It's tabortonbooks.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where people can find you.
Yeah.
Do you have social media at all? Like,
we do. We have Facebook, but that's about the extent of it. We'll
Okay.
probably have to be doing more. It's getting easier and easier to do.
Right.
So yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
Well, what have you been reading? Come on.
Honestly, here lately, not very much. Other than my Bible, I haven't found anything. I just haven't really had the time. It's kind of been one of those things that, like you said, like the world speeds up, you know, and it's been hard for me to find just something recently to pick up and read. I probably should read more because of how many brain injuries I've had, but so that's good for them.
It is good exercise. Yeah. What's the quickie? Country Soul, Fields of Grace. There's a bunch of inspirationals that were done by Larry the Cable Guy's wife. I think she's up to 3 now. They're beautiful books, very nice, small, and they're devotional and inspirationals, and you probably would really enjoy those.
Right.
She has a real knack for pulling biblical and religious references into the horse world. She does a really good job at it, and they're just very lovely books just to hold and look at and read. It's an all-inclusive
Yeah, I'm gonna
experience.
have to check those out because I need to come stop by, look for a book while I'm here. Pick up a horse book. And
We probably have people browsing over there right now. You put up a little sign, but just tell them to browse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you for stopping by, sharing some insight on some horse books, something that you wouldn't think people needed, but they do.
As far as other media, it comes and goes, and it comes and goes quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
VHS was around for a long time. DVDs are, in terms of my book world, they're
Right.
on their way out. Everybody is going to streaming. Everybody wants 15-minute increments.
Yeah.
This is the magic duration.
Yeah.
But the books just keep on going.
Right.
So, interesting. Well, it was great.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.